Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy Heroes. We're back with a talk video, and this was a bit of a surprise, but in retrospect it makes a lot of sense. I didn't think we were going to see a lifter character for an outdated Galactic Legend this month, but when I think about it, I have to ask myself, why not? We are getting Ben SWOLO. He is going to be adding new life and utility to a Galactic Legend that has fallen a bit out of favor, and it gives any player who has GL Ray and is invested in that direction the motivation in this next Conquest to either participate or new levels or to start spending. So I think for CG, it makes a ton of sense. We're going to break down and analyze his kit, speculate on the synergies, and mine the developer insights for any extra information, and wrap up with the free-to-play gearing of my roster. We begin with the kit for Ben SWOLO. We are going to just focus in on the key terms to simplify our understanding of what is going on here. The unit name CG has given us a little Easter egg with Ben SWOLO, and that's actually how I'm going to refer to him because it will simplify our understanding of who we are referring to. The basic is Shadow Within. This is special damage to the target, inflict defense down. If the target is a tank, deal double damage. If the target is an attacker or a support, inflict offense down and potency down. And if the target is a healer, inflict speed down. I think attacking a tank or an attacker will be the most advantageous. Tank obviously because of the extra damage, but an attacker because that offense down is going to keep SWOLO alive, and CG themselves refer to how vulnerable this character is. And I think the kind of functionality we are seeing here with these tag specific effects, we are going to be seeing a lot more of in the future. CG already has a few characters who have it, and we do see it a number of times with characters like Shock T, where we see those effects on our own squads, but applying them to an enemy is relatively untapped for CG. I think they will mine that further in the future. And that's a very nice basic, which makes sense because these special abilities have high cooldowns. The first special, Obscured, has a cooldown of 4, and it is an Omicron ability. Special damage, remove 100% turn meter, and if a ray is in the leader slot, inflict blind and gain offense up. That's the base functionality, which is pretty good. You'll always be happy with turn meter removal. The Grand Arena Omicron, if all allies are light side, when this ability is used, SWOLO reduces cooldowns by 1. If Galactic Legend Ray is a leader, the attack instead deals true damage and inflicts healing immunity, which can't be copied, dispelled, evaded, or resisted. If you have a Galactic Legend Raid, this Omicron will be a no-brainer. Without her, it still has plenty of utility, it's just reduced. A cooldown reduction is always desirable, but if it's worth an Omicron is another question. That's usually more of a Zeta ability. In this case, considering how important his special abilities are, it might be worth it, even without a GL. But it's the last one I'd put on, and I'd prefer to wait until Omicrons are less rare, and I'm going to be waiting for some in-game testing to see if it is as critical as it might be. The next special family legacy is Zeta, 4-turn cooldown ability. Special damage to the target, inflict armor shred. If allies are light side, AoE dispel and deal AoE true damage again. All allies gain 5% turn meter with a max of 25 for each enemy damaged, and the attack can't be evaded. If an enemy is defeated, SWOLO gains 10% offense stacking with a max of 50, and light side allies gain 5% offense stacking with a max of 25 until the end of battle. The conditional effects of this ability are highly desirable, so creating the context in which this can be capitalized upon will be important, meaning you need to take somebody out. but a cooldown of 4 will limit the stacking and the opportunities to use it. So with the first special, you're going to want to be timing this stuff out in order to make sure you can get to this special as often as possible. This, I'm assuming, is going to be the key ability, and CG intends this to be a one-hit kill or nearly one that transforms into a one-hit kill as the offense stacks. This is why they're going to refer to him as a glass cannon, because this is the cannon ability. And now we transition into the unique abilities, the first one being Redeemed. This is both a Zeta and an Omicron. At the start, if all allies are light side and a Ray is a leader, SWOLO gains 15% max health and 10 speed for each light side ally, ignoring taunt during his turn. The Grand Arena Omicron portion, the attack ignores protection. That is a very simple and basic Omicron, which is pretty unusual. The unique as it is nice. Additional speed and health are going to make him better. This Omicron though, I'd bet this is going to be near mandatory to make SWOLO do what he needs to do. Ignoring that protection means it makes him far more effective at eliminating his targets and makes it much easier to be that one-hit kill attacker that it sounds like CG wants him to be. It's the type of very specific Omicron that I wouldn't want to put on in normal circumstances, but for this character, I think it'll be required for him to function as intended and to get that stacking offense for himself and the squad. This is the first one that I would put on. If you're hesitant, you can wait until other players try it out, but this one I think is the number one Ami. The second unique Force Dyad, another Zeta and Omicron ability. If allies are light side and a Ray is a leader, all allies gain instant defeat immunity for 1 turn at the start. Can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. While SWOLO is active, Ray can't be defeated. SWOLO can't be defeated while Ray is above 50% health. This unique before the Omicron sounds great, sounds a little annoying, and not only does it force you to take out SWOLO first, it mandates reducing the health on Ray as a condition, which means balancing those two will be a nuisance and raise the importance of healers on the resistance squad. The Omicron adds in Grand Arena if Galactic Legend is an allied leader. If the enemy in the leader slot begins their turn with Ben solo defeated, and Ben still has an active ally, he revives with 51% health, and all allies gain instant defeat immunity for the rest of the encounter. At least this Omicron is skippable if you don't have Galactic Legend Ray, but this sounds like a nightmare to go up against if your opponent does have Geo Ray. Obviously, if you're a Ray player, you put this Omicron on. The rest of us, we have one that we can just safely leave off. But I'm going to hate going up against this Omicron. This one is going to be very good, very powerful, and he's going to be a 2 Omicron minimum character. But that third Omicron, really easy to put that one on too. This might be one of those characters where you just put on all the Omicrons. Last thing I want to say about this unique, and I'm glad Tracked over on the Discord prompted me to even think about this. Because of what this unique has done, a lot of existing counters have now been eliminated. So you either need to have a GL, or when it comes to non-GL counters, Starkiller is probably the last one standing. So if you don't have Starkiller, you should move him up your priorities if you expect to be facing opponents who are going to have SWOLO. Because of the synergy between him and a GL Ray, taking them out is going to be difficult, and you're going to need to try and do it simultaneously, which Starkiller is going to be able to do. These synergy suggestions that CG shows us should always be taken with a skeptical eye. CG tries to obscure the ideal teams and leave that to the community to figure out which is good, and that rule applies in this scenario. I would only consider one of these characters as a possibility of who will end up on the ideal squad. They refer to SWOLO as a glass cannon down below. I think we need to keep that in mind, and instead we surround him with tanks. We surround him with Finn and Holdo, but I would still consider Resistance Hero Finn a little bit because he has some desirable functionality with his rallying call ability and his unique. His unique is going to be giving some shared stats plus recovery and turn meter, and rallying call will force a taunt, and you can time that for moments when SWOLO is exposed. But just because I think that might be an ideal or optimal scenario doesn't mean that's how I think it's going to happen. I think it makes plenty of sense to keep Resistance Hero Finn and Poe together under a JTR and split up into 2 squads instead of having one squad that's extra good. I don't think it's going to be significant enough to matter. Last thing here is the Rose Omicron. It's going to be hurt by not having a home under Finn, not that anyone was putting it on, but it was something I was looking at as I was dissecting this kit. With the developer insights, the way CG talks about things can be illuminating. One of the things they highlight repeatedly are the Omicrons, which I think is a little bit of a clue that these Omicrons are going to be pretty important and desirable. Some of them regardless of whether or not you have a Galactic Legend Ray. In the unique attributes portion of this, they do highlight that the Grand Arena Omicron is going to ignore protection. I think that's just another clue that signifies how important that is going to be to the potential of the one-shot kill viability that might exist within his kit. We'll need to see that live if that proves out. And in the strategy tips, they emphasize that he is a glass cannon, which is a problem, but because of how those Omicrons work, there's ways around it. With Geo Ray and being able to be revived, he will be a nuisance regardless of that, which is why he is going to be so valuable for those Geo Ray players. And now to wrap up, as we do with the free-to-play gearing of my roster, this is the gearing I performed on July 25th. Most of this is just after Chrysanthemum and Melgus became active. Also was able to farm Sortie up to 6 stars, and that's because I had a little auto-click disaster where I got a 5-star Sortie. Not a huge problem though, plenty good character. 8th brother finished the farm on. I am set up for the Grand Inquisitor hoarding gear right now for that potentiality. That Zeta is the least desirable of all Inquisitor Zetas. Now I had something like, I don't know, okay, so I had 563 Carbantes, almost 1,000 stun guns, the 400 and 500 of the Kairos, and now I'm taking them up because both Chrysanthemum and Melgus require a lot of Carbantes. I think I'm going to pull it up here in a second. Yeah, so there's 6 Carbantes to get to gear 11, 3 stun guns, 3 sets of Kairos attacks. Just applying a couple of those other key abilities. Throwing on the Zeta. The Omicron, that is one that is nice for him to have, but doesn't really help out his squad, so I'm not putting that one on anytime soon. Shifting over to Melgus. Adjusting the table, there's Melgus's gear requirements up to gear 11. Just double checking the status of some of those more used gear pieces. I also bought like 25 to 50 Carbantes. Almost out of carbs. We are now hitting gear 11. And now my Carbantes are completely gone. But I have Melgus and Chrysanthemum at gear 11. I'm going to put on one of these Omicrons to start. You can look at my Grand Arena footage if you want to see what a gear 11 one Omicron Melgus does. It was the leadership Omicron that I put on, and he's pretty good. Like, obviously he's not as good, he doesn't do as much damage, but I threw him in up against a CLS squad with bad side characters, and he held his own for 3-4 minutes before he was taken out. I was pretty pleased with it. Now for the rest of this, I was going to work on some of these other characters, but we're out of gear. So we're taking Outrider to 7 stars. Nice to be done with that farm and be able to shift into the relic prep for these goals. I'm going for Grand Inquisitor and then Profundity as quickly as I can right afterwards. Hopefully I'm ready for the Profundity by the time I have a 7-star Radis. Meaning that I've hoarded enough relic materials that when he hits 7 stars, I can take him and everyone else I'm working on up to those levels. Sith Eternal Emperor is the other thing I'm working on, but that's much further out. I totaled up all of the materials. I can take Grand Inquisitor and Profundity to the required levels for half the investment, or nearly half the investment as Sith Eternal Emperor. Now I'm getting a couple key relics. Jolie, taking him up to Relic 5 just to reduce some of the variance and some counters like against Qui-Gon. Jin here, up to gear 12. She doesn't need any Carbantes. And we need her for Profundity anyway. Just taking some marginal steps where I can. This is one that I can take without significant issue. Although those golden eyeballs I probably could have used, because I am in dire need of the salvage portion, not the component portion. Just checking which of these left side gear 12 pieces I can put on without affecting my projects for Profundity and Grand Inquisitor. Most of those are fairly inconsequential pieces. Not the case though for Zam. Starting to get low on the numbers. The multi-tool I guess I can put on. But these med packs, those Mark 7 med packs, you just need so many of. I guess I do it anyway because that extra health is that valuable, but what else? That. Grief is the other thing I wanted to do, but I'm out of gear. We will wrap it up there, but I think I want to put in little nuggets of information for anyone who makes it to this portion of the video. The Andor trailer, incredible. I'm not going to say anything for those of you who haven't watched it yet. It just came out on the 1st. You definitely need to watch it. It looks fantastic. Watch Michael Clayton. Tony Gilroy, who wrote Rogue One, also wrote Michael Clayton. It's a fantastic movie. I like it much more than Rogue One, and it's on Netflix right now. Other thing is Admiral Radis. I was looking at the Marquee schedule. He's probably due on the update coming sometime this week, or at the very latest next week. We will start getting a farmable Admiral Radis, which means Profundity is probably only 2 to 3 weeks after he becomes farmable. But thank you for watching. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.